Shirley here with Jupitalis. This is Venus hour and Jupiter day. Venus is 22 in and the midheaven is right next to it. Ascendant 29 degrees Cancer, so I'm probably spot on. Moon in Cancer. I'm going to give you an energy reading. This doesn't happen often. Again, it is very likely quite specific to people. So if you run around that and it's like I don't connect, then maybe it's not for you. Okay, so um, for whom it is about. And it can be various people at the same time. I want to mention the fact that because of the social engineering that can also be occultistic and so on and so forth, then it can be that you are in one situation like that, and the people who are involved consciously or unconsciously, very likely unconsciously, in that, they are also in such a situation. So this is where, yes, we want to kind of maintain reason, but it is might be very, very validating for you to know, to understand what's going on. And so what I'm getting from the energy, there have been a lot of campaigns around betrayal, but also around isolation. And if you are one of these people who are suffering from that, either you or somebody next to you or both were in situation where everything around was to isolate you so that you would rely on a particular energy, and then those who did that, they caved in when that actually happened, if that actually happened. So it can be around, create a situation where everybody around kind of betrays you, and then you go to a certain energy, or you will go to a certain person, or you will go to turn to certain something, and then when they actually had to kind of take the win, so to speak, they were overwhelmed, because what happened is not that you became weaker, is that your values, Venus, became almost lethal, in the sense that not only because going through that, you begin to value yourself more and compromise less on what is you definitely learn compromise. Okay, when you have less people around you, then there are things you compromise, there are things you understand, there are things you are inclusive of, but it's only sharpened your values. And what I'm getting at is very likely those are the values they've been trying to extinguish. And not only that they didn't extinguish them, they became even more powerful and even stronger. Now, for some people, that might have been a reconnection with your value or with your true essence, particularly those of you who have placements in the last decan of Taurus. You might have been either reconnecting with your old values, or you had a tower moment for the values that are not aligned with truth. So some of you could be experiencing loss, but some of you can also be experiencing a tremendous win. Okay, now with Sun and Mercury going over Gemini. Okay, I was talking about the soul talisman. It had a lot of harsh effects for people who are night charts, but alongside these harsh effects, there were also good effects. Okay, there were also clarity that was coming up, and for many of you, the more they try to isolate you, the more you're reconnected with your own values. And the figures that they were trying to juxtapose you to, in hope to extinguish your values, or just, I don't know, whatever, okay, then what happened is that you've actually either matured, okay, you both matured in that case. And yesterday I was receiving something. It was a crisis point, and somebody was trying to make somebody do a ritual. And when there is a heavy energy, then people notice it in the entire nervous system. And what I heard was it only brought them closer together. And so that doesn't mean that you are in relationship, and this is very important because Venus can denote friendship. Mercury can be the wing of friendship, even over romantic relationship at this time, particularly because of sexuality. There's a wound here People try to figure out, are they LGBTQ, are they queer, are they trans, are they straight, and even if they are, what do they like? Okay, there's a question of the body, particularly the genitals with both Venus and Mars. So there's a question around that. People are reevaluating, considering, and also touching at wounds that are really challenging to touch, because some of these things are the result of rituals and some of these things are not. And it is not so linear to say that a particular type of gender preference or gender identification would be because of a ritual or not. And yet there are rituals done around these topics, okay? So that can be very, very challenging to process. And that can even be a part of the issue, part of the scheme. Okay, they want you to get. For some of you, it would be touching on that. They wanted you somebody to be isolated, so they would turn to you, and let's say you're gay, they're straight, so they wanted to kind of create a triggering of your own wounds as a gay person, or triggering of your own wounds, okay, around abandonment, rejection. I don't know what, but basically the old is they're looking for like the ultimate betrayal. And what I was getting at is like, well, no, that only brought them closer together, or that only brought them to mature in a certain way, and it only brought them to reconnect with their essence of their values. Eros was surrounding this point where Venus is. So you want to think about a situation where the story of Eros is he has a beautiful, amazing wife, but this wife has a problem with her heart with a single woman. And it can play itself out now with a single man. Okay, if somebody's married, and then there is a single woman or there's a single man around the block. And the woman says, you know what, Eros, I want you to shoot an arrow at this single man or the single woman and make them fall in love with the worst of the worst. Okay? Um, and then Eros wants to do that, but he shoots the arrow at himself and he falls in love with that single person, and that would be Psyche. And then he would fall in love with Psyche, and what he does is that he forms a mask in the astral, and Psyche doesn't see his face. Okay, Eris doesn't see his face. Eris has to do with the face, and she falls in love. Okay, whether it's how he make love or his energy or whatnot or her energy. Okay, whatever, um, um, and she is not to see his face. Okay, she's not to see who he is. Why? He's actually married to a woman, was actually in a relationship, but he agreed to take that, and then he fell in love. I was also receiving, in screenwriting, we say the wish to get to know someone is falling in love. So, as an astrologer, when I do charts, I always do synastry. I always see, why is this person in my life? Why is this person coming up? I'm very open, very aware of things. But for those of you who are sent on missions, then y'all might get an Eros effect, okay? Because the wish to get to know someone is to fall in love. And if that was malicious, so a lot of you are facing the consequences that Eros had to face, or that you were sent on a mission, but when you actually get to know someone, then it's a different perspective, and you get to understand things that you didn't before, and that can create infatuation as well. Um, and so some of you did not even realize you were sent on a mission. Okay, it can be like all that unconscious. Um, and there can be even a situation where somebody wants to have like vengeance through making someone fall in love, and then like, yeah, you made that someone fall in love. Now of course when people fall in love, they understand, they see you through the eyes of love, or they just get to know you more, and they're like, okay, they have shifted, they have transformed. Now if you're still stuck in the vengeance, now you are the one that need to transform. You understand? So this is all around those Eros stories that are happening right now, where people would isolate someone or would make someone to fall in love with this person and only this person. Now this person has to deal with the effects of. Okay, they have to deal with it. Like you wanted to win them over. Now you have, and that entails something. Let's say Psyche. Why is she being single? Okay, maybe she been single because she or he come from lineage where there are all kind of family curses. Okay, and maybe that's how you both learn about this. Maybe she been single because she did not like for the type of sexuality that is prevalent in the kingdom. Okay, and she has another type of sexuality that she worked at and learned to refine and perfect in various forms, and that's why she been single. Okay, so now you have to kind of like have the tower moment where you both kind of get what you want, and at the same time, even with Saturn and Neptune, there is a reassessment. You're like, okay, that is the reality check of what it is. Okay, she been single because, and Psyche had an inner beauty. It was not about seduction. Okay, so it can also be a situation where you were thinking somebody's being sent to seduce you and they weren't actually at all trying to seduce you, okay? That is, that's the thing. And it can go about in various ways, or somebody, and it can be to a fault. Like people meet, each person is concerned of what is happening. Are they trying to seduce me? Are they this? Are they that? And it's not at all the case. Now, for some of you, you have been used by those, social engineering programs and had to take the burden or the toll of those, okay, type of networking, and that have definitely been a transformative experience in itself. Okay, especially when Venus tells us here that there's a fight for the values, and the values are, you know, let's just say a part of identity, so much so that person would go Oppenheimer on this. um, and with Venus, values always have to do, Venus meeting Aries in Aries was okay with rape. Okay, she made the Trojan War. She was so falling out of the thing. We can assume that she was raped as well. She was so disincluded that any type of connection is okay. And Venus is exactly the other way around. Okay, Venus is Aphrodite. Venus is this, Venus is that. She would die and kill for not sexual sovereignty, but when it comes to the sensual pleasure. Yes, it has to be sensual, it has to be pleasurable, and it has a meaning. It has to do with fertility, it has to do with a lot longevity. Okay, it has to do with many things. And that Venus would definitely go about an Oppenheimer crusade around that. So this is where people only reconnected more with their values, and where there absolutely is the humility. Okay, that person is thinking like that because of that. Whichever part you play in that scenario, and you probably play a couple of roles unbeknownst to you, or people thought that they would send you over a certain energy and something would happen, but the complete opposite had happened. And so everybody's kind of having a tower moment because there's actually a culmination, there's actually a fruition of this crisis. Okay, so for those of you that have been isolated to a fault, then you have been isolated, and it actually a lot of the scenarios maybe play themselves out. And for those of you who are trying to like do the Eros job, okay, to get Psyche to fall in love with them, and the continuation of the story of Psyche, her sisters say, go see who this man is. And Eros had a bravado and an ego because he had something to hide. He was scheming against Psyche, okay? And he was scheming against the Psyche, or he was used in a scam against the Psyche. And even if he told the truth, he kind of like he didn't want to show the face. And then Psyche bursts into his bedroom and unravels him. Okay, and this is where the wish to get to know someone becomes to a fold. Okay, somebody wishes to get to know you now. Oh, see this energy. Oh, what is this chart? What is this person? What is this? What is this that? And then this can bring all around the past. Okay, it can bring all around the past of someone. Then people trying to bury the past. Okay, in that case, Eros is trying to bury the past, and his wife gives Psyche a mission to sift to take what is important out of what is not important, okay, and basically a mission of discernment, but it's a very challenging mission, and only after Psyche will complete that mission will she be able to marry Eros, who is now head over heels in love with her, and she with him. But this is where not all Eros Psyche journeys come to completion, but definitely we have to be discerning. And the topics at hand are lineage topics, real estate rituals, okay, the very campaigns, okay, the fact that there are what spirits and matter. We cannot let's just say gaslighting or framing people as both like the prophet or the how should I say it, the crazy person, okay, those type of things, they all have to be sifted and sorted out of the system. Anything to do with gender as well, but also with cloning, okay. A person being born into cloning family doesn't mean anything about them other than the fact that that was their birthing. If they went through rituals, then that can affect them, then they would have to deprogram. Do they want that? Are they willing? Okay, do they have access to that? Okay, that's those are also topics that are coming when we are talking about Aries and the Ubermensch project. And yes, other things are, with Venus, type of commitment. She's ruling over Uranus. Okay, for rings and such. What does that entail? Saturn, depth, okay, what is expected, all the kind of weird rituals that are done or not done in certain lineages, and people can become aware of their own lineage through that, okay, and that can be an issue. Um, so um, in that case, what you're seeing now is what the community sees, first of all, is that not only that those things did not bring you, they did bring crises upon, but they only brought certain values for people to reconnect with their own values and to have the I am connected to those values, okay? And that means that things will have to be healthier from now on. Okay, things will have to be less codependent. There's a lot of maturity. There's a lot of for some people it means walking away, although Mars is still in trine relations to Venus, and I don't predict those endings to be fully coming to fruition before Venus joins Jupiter and squares Saturn. Okay. Some of you are having back and forth moments, a realization, and then there is the understanding that all parties right now want happy, thriving, safe relations. What that entails of the community, well, many things. You can watch my previous episode to see how extreme it can go. But it also means that for those of you who have gone through this process or going through this process, you're only reconnecting with your values. Okay, you're only learning to value yourself more. Now, Venus is applying to square Pluto. And this is where that type of value crisis is going to be up to certain transformation. And we can take a look at the time where Venus is squaring Pluto. She was going to do it from her home sign of Taurus, and this is yes, it's a hard aspect. I addressed it physically, but it's genuinely a hard aspect. Okay, it's one of the most challenging aspects that we have, and let's say. Yeah, it happens twice in a Venus cycle. The opening square. It has to do, because of the conjunction, have to do with kidnapped people, This is another one. Eros might have been involved. Okay, so that is something that you want to understand. There is a crisis of values. It's very likely to be connected with the kidnapped people, the kidnapped women. A crisis around trafficking. Again, I addressed the fact that Aries is both LGBTQ and double agent human traffickers. Okay, so it's kind of like, hey, you want your sexual freedom, don't traffic people. Whereas it's also important to understand that inclusivity is important, and yet, if how should I say it, when the act of love is loving, no A bomb drops. And the A bomb was an agreement between Pluto and Aries. Yes, this is referring to something that a gay artist, Darren Hayes, said about his own traumas. Okay, it's literally calling. I think it was the father saying, "You made the act of love unloving." Okay, so on that journey, of course, inclusivity toward gender preferences is important, but the first and foremost is to upturn the fact that the act of love was not unloving, and this is the crisis between Venus and Pluto that is going to come into fruition when the act of love is loving. No A bombs drop, and then people can get to see what is their gender, what is their this, what is their that, and they also have to be included. Their identity has to be included, and yet when the act of love is not loving, and this is a ritual done to, and as one of the people that have been going, that has gone through that ritual, that were trying to make me be able to have sex without love. And recently there were beings that were trying to do that again because they are human traffickers. Um, so what comes up from that is like, hey, you want your LGBTQ freedom? Well, don't participate in rape, and with Venus, and at the same time, the very people saying that is like, well, how can I know if I like this type or that type or this or that, or celebrate? Maybe I have a range of preferences. Maybe I'm more attracted to men, but it can also be with women. But that can only be around willing consent. That can only be around happy, healthy, thriving sexuality. Being aware of the fact that people that have had those traumas, they need an almost near death experience, not only to like have something that's close. It's not an orgasm, it's actually something that is meant to mitigate trauma. um, and they call it orgasm probably because that's the closest that they know, and they're not to blame for that. But at the same time, um, okay, these are real taboo topics. These are real taboo topics, and the crisis that Venus is bringing from Taurus is the return to the Venus in Taurus is the return to the sensuality. It's not all the other things that masquerade as sex and are not. And there can be elating, and they can be ecstatic, and there can be many things around those experiences. But what they are not is sex. Okay, what they are not is pleasure. What they are not is the sensual, the fertility, the nervous system being healthy. What they are not is the ability of a person to reconnect with themselves and explore with gender preferences from a happy stand, rather than a trauma-based, misplaced arousal, trauma bonds, and all that. And a lot of the campaigns that were done around were to create those things, which only got people to deeper understand certain things. And for some of you, that may have been a big crisis because you were used to having people in those states of being raped to make sex without love, or being raped to like men or to like women, okay, to being raped into gender preference, and then going through all these things, um, and refinding the self. And it's a crisis about human trafficking and kidnapped people. Okay, it's a crisis that adds another layer to the topic, because it's true that, hey, a lot of LGBTQ people are subjected to human trafficking because they can't find housing, because they can't this, because they can't that. It is also true that it's not like the other folks have sex. And that is in itself bringing the crisis of trafficking, because they're already trafficked, whether they're married or not, because they don't have access to housing, and those very rituals that cause this are around real estate. So there's a lot of intricacy here, a lot of gunk, okay, a lot of stuff that is heavyweight topics, and a lot of time, when people had been molded by rape into who they are, and then they say, "Well, include me as who I am." Venus here comes and says, "Wait a sec, what would you be without the trauma? What would you be without those things?" And she's facing Pluto, which is um, which is the taboos around the nervous system affecting the identity, and the trauma affecting the identity, and the rituals affecting the identity. This is the crisis, okay? Venus wants to be sensual, happy, thriving, relational, and she's dealing with something that was meant to oppress that. Um, okay, there's no love in North Korea. Um, And also, you need to know that in some orders, the gay relations, some people are happy with the gay relations, but some people, in some orders, the gay relations are mandatory, which means that the people are raped. Okay, the children, the boys are raped as well. And that is, when they make the act of love unloving, that affects being able to be in the body. I don't want to put Darren on the spot here too much, but I remember when he said he was 50 back then. He said it took him 50 years to be inside his body, okay, to be having safety in the body. And I'm not 50 yet. um, and I really ran into in the past week of the notion that in the world that they created, to be was not to be. It wasn't even the question of to be or not to be. To be was not to be. And this is a crisis that Venus is going to go over here with Pluto from Taurus. It is in no way easy, and we're already beginning to have this conversation when she's conjuncting Aries. That's very much involved in both LGBTQ, and people are in risk of assassination simply because of who they are, but also the elite and the Ubermensch project, okay, and cloning, and so many things. So it's not an easy conversation to have, but it's particularly, we don't even have all the data, and we don't even have most of the people, like all of the people, don't have access to all the data because they need to dissociate Neptune in order to be. In order to be, they need still to have various grades of not to be. By the way, for Hayes, I think it's safe to say that the minute I mentioned MK Ultra, they were supporting, Biden, who was the head of committee of MK Ultra. Okay, like I had a reason to say it wasn't doggone thing. Then I was completely immediately blocked, and I was like, wait, haven't we talked about the? Haven't you just talked about? Oh. And you can see how that dissociation within each and every one of us. Okay, and when I say that dissociation, I mean that with me at first, okay, with me not being aware, or me not understanding the full meaning of what would that mean to the other person to read that. Okay, so let's say taking like kind of full accountability, and at the same time, me being in such a situation where I was angry that we don't say the things that are so important and relevant to be. And yet that situation where to be is not to be is still going on in so many ways, and that affects relations. Okay, when the option to have a happy, thriving, healthy relation, and even beyond the orgasm or the sexuality, and people can have various, asexual, I don't know, okay, many things, but when the option to have a happy, thriving, safe, unhealthy relation is worked against, because there's no love in North Korea, okay? Bringing back that this country is North Korea, and I know how intricate that one is. So when that is blocked, then there are always going to be those juxtapositions that are going to put, I don't know, gay person with a straight person, okay, and then just say, well, let's do lavender. Well, no, and then this is getting another intricacy. Okay, try to force people into connections. Then a person is single. Why are they single? A person is not single. Why don't they break up? Okay, that there's always going to be, because the act of love was not loving. And then there was to begin with, there was no access to an identity, and so when people begin to form an identity, there is lack of inclusivity towards that identity, because again, but the act of love was not loving, so how can there be even access to identity? And inclusivity is like, inclusivity of what? You can be inclusive of the possibilities, but Venus reminds us that the act of love needs to be loving, and and only then we can even realize what our actual sexual fantasies are, not the misplaced arousal, not all these things, that people depend on them with their lives. Okay, it's life energy. So that is quite a bit of a transition that we are coming to. At the same time, Jupiter, the god of semen, but also the gurus and the philosophers and his spousal connotations, is squaring Saturn Neptune. So again, the ability to have, how do they say in Hebrew, zivug, so it's union or whatnot, the ability to have like good relations, marital relations or whatnot, or even not marital, like living together relations, whether starting a family or not, that is blocked. Okay, that is blocked. It's blocked by debt, it's blocked by crime, it's blocked by social engineering, it's blocked by the act of love being unloving, it's blocked by MK Ultra. Okay, it's blocked by those things that Bill Clinton apologized for in 1995. It's blocked by rituals. It's many things. And this is why I said in the beginning of the episode that a lot of you that have been dealing with that, you may have been the person who is isolated in one situation, the person that somebody is being isolated so that they would be dependent on you. I'm having Eureka as I'm speaking about that, because those things keep people under mind control. They keep people in trauma. They keep people susceptible. They put people to such excruciating points. They would bring people that are coming together, or they would bring people that bring up back the past. And even though, yes, of course there is healing, there is understanding, there is this, there is that, but at the end of the day, okay, the ghetto walls need to be torn down so people can be free, and that means that the act of love will be loving. And in those situations, they have turned what is loving, they have turned the unloving into a loving act. Okay, so whether it's assassination and all those things. So yes, I am dedicating another episode to this topic. Challenging transits, but they are a part of what is coming out now. Because people, learn about, they take accountability, they take responsibility. This is what Saturn in Eris calls us to do, okay, to take accountability, to take responsibility. Well, when you do, you find out, well, the situation right now is that to be is not to be, and we need to change that.